Welcome back. We are, as always, continuing the conversation about stress in the nervous system and what that looks like. We're going to go through a case study and we'll look at some scans here in a second. This particular case came to mind because we're having a conversation with some families this last couple weeks about their kids going back into in-person learning, and which is great. But we've been living in a very sterile environment this last year, and so they're going to be exposed to things. They're going to be passing things that their bodies just aren't used to. And this another family was saying, not the one I was going to show you here, but they're saying, yeah, I'm glad that we're coming. I'm glad we're getting adjusted. I'm glad that we feel good about our our kids' nervous systems being adaptable, and because they get the language now, right? Being adaptable, and if something comes up, we're going to be able to handle that. And so, which is super important, because we know if they get a cough, they get a sniffle, they have a little bit of fever, they're going to be sent home until they get a negative test or until their symptoms go away. And so having that nervous system really communicating and doing the things that it's supposed to do, that immune system doing its job, hopefully, we can shorten that sickness up, those symptoms up, so we get to school, back to school right away. So our buddy Sam came to us last year, and we'll show the scans here in a second, just before his second birthday. He was in 1% of growth. Vocab was struggling. He had 5 or 6 rounds of antibiotics because of constant ear infections. There's a threat of a second set of tubes, and that's when parents found us. And there's one set of scans in particular that we look at that can show the stress, and it's really nice because we give them an objective thing to show to parents. And for me personally too, like, yep, there's the stress, it's in there. And so when we first scanned Sam, his scan looked like this. Now, you don't have to be an expert on some of the scanning stuff, but red is not good, it's significant. Blue is moderate, and green is mild nerve interference at these different levels. So you can see, just a huge chunk of red up in the upper cervical, which would make sense with ear infections. And so we put him on a care plan, and after a month of care, it looked like this. Okay, so a lot less. We're getting rid of some of those red bars. It's not perfect by any means, and his body's unwinding. That nervous system is coming back online, and his brain and his body are starting to figure things out. Do another set of scans, and it looks like that. You can see where it's shifted down, and that's what we tell parents a lot. Their kid's body is going to unwind. It's going to look a little bit different as we get to these deeper levels within his nervous system. And we go here, almost gone. And the last scan, right before we put him on wellness, looked like that. And so when we look at this is a brain and body that is talking very clearly. It's well connected. There's not a lot of any roadblocks or a lot of noise that we talk about sometimes, compared to that first set of scans where it looked like that. And so this is a good example of that stress slowly moving out of that body, because that stress is accumulative. It's going to stay in there, and you're going to get different symptoms. You're going to get different behaviors if we don't have that stress leave the body. And so you can see with Sam, it was a perfect example of that stress slowly moving out of his body, and the family committed to multiple weeks of care to make this happen. So really, they did the hard work getting in here and making that time commitment. But around this time, Mom reported for Sam, mood was better. His personality was starting to come out. He's growing a lot. Vocab was taking off, sleeping better. And that makes sense, right? We always talk, we can't be in growth and protection at the same time. So he's literally growing, because right here, he's in protection mode. His body was just in survival mode. It was just getting to the next day. And then we opened up, we got rid of some of that stress, then his body's able to grow. It's able to develop. It's able to get those vocab words in. It's able to actually have some personality instead of being in constant protection, constant stress, fight or flight mode. So this is a good example of, kind of how we measure things here, and how we can keep scanning, hold us accountable. And we can literally show you parents, like, we can see that stress leaving. Let's keep going, let's keep going. We almost got it until we get to here, and we know that brain, that body is well connected. So kind of a conversation that we had with somebody earlier this week. I just want to share with you kind of, how that all works, and I'll give you maybe an intro if you haven't seen some of these scans before, how we can measure some of the scan stuff.